But my dreams, like I had all these things I wanted to do, and now I have to hit pause again. Having kids is a limitation. Doesn't mean it's bad, but it's just a fact. I had this fear of perception. You're saying no to someone. So it's either this client or it's your family. But you are having to say no to somebody.
Welcome to Baby Bump and Business, the podcast for creative moms growing a baby and a brand at the same time. I'm your host, Trofort-Wilson, photographer, educator, and first-time mom, sharing the real unfiltered journey of pregnancy, entrepreneurship, and everything in between. Each week, I'll be joined by a fellow creative mom to talk about the beauty, the burnout, and the balance of it all. So let's get into it. Today's guest is Tiffany Crenshaw of Animal House Photography. Tiffany is a Huntsville and North Alabama's leading lifestyle, newborn, and family storytelling photography, and one of the only Black photographers in her field. And while some people may not understand the importance to notate those things, she believes it's a huge part of her story, and in turn, the stories that she can create for families. More than a photographer, she considers herself a storyteller who loves capturing real and authentic moments between families. Watching her own children as they grow drives the way that she photographs families, because as a mom, she knows that the images we have are the only way to truly freeze time. Her role as a wife, a friend, and a mom fuels her passion and intention as a lifestyle family photographer. Hey, Tiffany, thank you for joining us today.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Yes. So what inspired you to enter the creative entrepreneurship space?
Honestly, it was one of those things where it wasn't my intention. It was not my intention at all. I was a school teacher. I taught second grade and I taught reading. I was a reading coach for kids, and I started having my own children and just thought, well, I'll just take some pictures of them and, how that can go. And slowly people started noticing and asking me like, "Oh, like, are you going to start doing photography?" I was like, "Nope, not going to do it. I don't want a business. I don't want anything to do with that." And then I was like, "You know what? I'll try it. I'll just do like a little tiny bit on the side." And then within a year, it took over from my teaching, and I left the classroom and had a business. That's what happened.
That's an amazing journey, being able to hear how motherhood inspired this new business, although it was not intentional at all. So going from that, what was, especially having children, I know for me, my daughter's only 2 months, so I'm still in that wing of things. But when you were starting, what were the things that you did to balance out still being a mom while still trying out this new passion?
Yeah, and honestly, I wish I had balanced more. I feel like in the last few years, that word balance has been something that has been pivotal for my business. I think when I started, like a lot of us that are in the creative field, I didn't have a business background. So I really didn't know anything about running a business. I was like, all right, what do people charge? I don't know. Like, okay, that sounds good. I'm going to just do mini sessions because that's what people do. And a lot of what I did was just based on what I saw around me, but not based on what does this look like for our family. And I feel like after the second year of getting a little burned out and realizing, okay, I've got to have a plan. I got to have a system, in place here. So that is what led to kind of the structure I have now. But it was a lot of
Gotcha.
trial and error. A
So
lot of trial and error.
can you tell us one trial where it was just like, okay, you know what? I can't do this anymore. Like, in order for me to have some type of balance of being a wife, being a mother, this is what I need to instill in my business.
Absolutely. I remember the exact pivotal moment. It was fall of 2021, and I was sitting in my car before a photo shoot, and I had a few minutes before they got there, and I just was crying. I was so burned out. I was like, "I don't even think I can get out of the car. I don't even think I can, like, turn my camera on. I'm done." And I was like, I can't go another fall season like this." And so when that season wrapped up, I was like, I need a coach. I need someone to teach me, like, how do you balance sessions with having kids? Also, we homeschool. So there was just a lot on my plate. And I really took the business side seriously. Like, that was the moment I was like, okay, if this isn't going to be a hobby, then it has to be functioning as a business. It has to have some structures in place and all of those things. So, but yeah, it's just funny, like, you have those moments where you're like, "Oh, I remember." Like, I remember the exact moment that I really rewired my business.
No, okay, now you just put something very, very pivotal. You homeschool as well.
Yes. I just, like,
Okay.
slid that in there, you know?
That okay, so now you're not just a wife, you're not just a mom, you're homeschooling and running a business. Like that's layers on top of layers on top of layers of
Yeah.
what it sounds like no breaks is what it sounds like.
You know, it used to be no breaks, but that's not the case anymore. There's definitely seasons that are a little busier than others, but I value my time. I've learned to value my time. And so, right now, the way that I'm priced, the structure of my business, it allows me not to have to cram in a lot of sessions. So, yeah, not to say it's never busy, but it's not like it used to be. December, I don't really shoot. So this is like my month to just reflect and tie things up and kind of plan for next year. And that never used to be the case.
Gotcha. So even talking about that, oftentimes as creative entrepreneurs, we feel like we have to do everything. We have to say yes to every single job. We have to say yes to every opportunity, believing like if I say no, I may not get another opportunity and things like that. But you seem to be able to structure your business in a way to where that's not the case, where it's more so I value my time, I value what I bring to the table, and I can structure my business that way. So what would you say for moms that are out there trying to structure and run their business to know that you don't have to do everything and pile up everything on yourself?
Right. Yeah. I would say first to be really clear about what your business needs from you specifically. So, as women, we tend to think that we got to do everything, right? And everything has to have our hands in it. And if I don't do it, it's not going to get done. But that's really not the case. You got to really audit what things actually move the needle in your business because some things might need to go in this season. Like you've got a new baby, right? So, there's things that maybe this version of you can't handle right now. And so that may look like putting some things on pause for now, or it may look like delegating some things out to other people that are skilled and like, yes, other people can do things like, we're so like, oh, it won't get done exactly right. And maybe it won't, but that doesn't mean that you won't see progress in things, right? So,
So you had said something very important about in this new season that you're in, right? And I know one thing that I've heard from a lot of mothers but when going into this transition of understanding that you're in a new season. And sometimes it's hard to wrap your head around as a mother, knowing that, okay, who I used to be before I had kids is not who I am
yeah,
anymore. And you kind of like mourn that old self, but now you're going into this
yes.
new season. So with you having to go into your new season, what was that challenge like for you?
Yeah, and you're right. It is like a morning almost, right? And if you remember in 2020, the online education world like took off, right? Like everybody was starting to build courses and build platforms and do all this stuff. And I wanted to go into education, but we had just moved here from South Carolina March 1st of 2020. So just a couple weeks before everything shut down and my kids really needed me, right? Like during that season, I was ready to grow and they were not ready for that. And so it was hard to kind of watch the people that started education during that time. It like flew because there had not been that online world, right? And so it was hard to kind of watch that go by. The same thing 2 years ago, we had a baby unexpectedly. We have a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 2-year-old.
Oof.
So, we call him the going out of business sale, so I also was finally at a place where my girls are older, they're self-sufficient, and I'm like, "All right, I'm about to do all these things, I have these big dreams," and then I'm pregnant. And again, it was like I'm joyful, but also there was some mourning going on there because I'm like, but my dreams, like I had all these things I wanted to do, and now I have to hit pause again. And I feel like you've got to acknowledge the mourning. Like it's okay. It's okay when things aren't the way that you envision them. And it's okay to be disappointed about that,
Mm.
right? Like I
Ooh.
don't think we give ourselves, I feel like we are in this mindset, like we have to be grateful for everything, and we should. But that doesn't mean we can't struggle and be like, "Man, like, having kids is a limitation. Doesn't mean it's bad." but it's just a fact. So there's things that you are going to be limited in. So it's relearning, okay, what can I do and what do I want to prioritize in this season even?
Okay, so with your surprise baby, did you have when you found out that you were pregnant, what was your mindset about what to do in your business now that you're going to go through this season? Did you start planning for a maternity leave? What was that like?
Yep, that was my first thing was like, I don't wanna work for 3 months. I don't want to have to think about a session or clients for 12 weeks. When I was teaching, I didn't have that luxury, the leave time is not great in the school system, and so, I was like, "This is my business, and I don't wanna work." So, I started really saving and making a plan. Okay, so how much do I need to set aside from each session for the next 4 months in order to build up this maternity leave? And so or I guess, probably more like 7 months. And I started, doing that. I started kinda having those, like, back pocket offers. So businesses we have, maybe it's not my normal, maybe I don't really do X, Y, or Z mini for me, like, mini sessions, but my thinking was, "I'm gonna do this now because I want this freedom that's coming," right? And that's what I started doing. I would have little, like, mini events and things like that, and I started just saving so that I truly was able to take that time off.
Awesome. So did you take all 12 weeks off?
I did. I only went in for one of my long-term clients had triplets, about a month before I had or yeah, about a month before I had our baby, and so I took my best friend and we went to her house with my little guy, and we photographed her 3 triplet newborns, and so that was my one I could not photograph triplet newborns.
Right.
I'm like, "That's crazy."
That's a rare
Yep.
opportunity.
It's a rare opportunity, but we both, we sat there, we nursed together, like, we're nursing and I'm shooting, and then we're, like, snacking, and then like, it was great. It was good. But other than that, no, girl, did not pick up that camera while I was
S
off.
So what did you do in those 12 weeks? So for me, my husband was not happy, but I went back after 3 weeks. I did one job,
Okay. Were you
and
ready? You were
then
ready?
I was ready to get out the house.
Okay, yeah,
I
yeah.
was like and I told my husband so I did that job, and I took a couple weeks off, then I went back in, and I've been, like, slowly, like, doing 1 job a week just to ease back
Okay.
into it. But I
Right.
was telling him, I was like, for me, I love what I do, but I'm also confident in what I do." And I'm
Mm.
like, at home, I felt like I was struggling, and I needed to feel
Okay,
confident
yeah.
in a space. And I was
Right.
like, going out there, being behind my camera for 2 hours, and then coming home, I was able to be more okay, like, I know what I'm doing. Let me feel stronger in this space, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I can totally see that. Absolutely.
So what did you do in that 12-week span? Was it just baby, and you still were homeschooling and all those things as well?
Yeah, well, he was born in June, so it kinda lined up nicely with because you live in the South too, so
Right,
it's hot, and I don't like to shoot in the summer anyway. Like, I really don't enjoy outdoor photo shoots in this it's just not a good it's not good. So, it was summer, so that kinda lined up nicely with a little bit quieter season anyway, but I had already, like, pre-planned some launches and, started booking my fall back really in, like, early spring, late winter because people
nice.
knew, that I was gonna have less capacity, and so I had already tried to set up early bookings for the coming year, and then, of course, like, typing out blog posts ahead of time that I could just schedule out, things that didn't require so much of me, and I had
Right,
a rough recovery. I don't know if it's baby 3 or the fact that I was a lot older than I was when I had the girls, but I didn't plan on physically being limited, right? Because normally I'm just like, I have the babies and I'm good.
right,
And really, it was a really rough recovery. And so I'm glad I had built in that space to not feel like I have to get back to work or I have to market right now. You know what I mean?
right.
Because I wouldn't have been able to, or I would have sacrificed in some area, you know?
Right. Right. That makes a lot of sense. And I know that's one thing that we don't speak often about is what that recovery time looks like. And you can't predict it. You can't predict
Right.
what's going to happen with your body or what's. And that was one thing I wish I knew more about. Like, I know the idea of a baby coming out of you. It's like, oh yeah, the baby's coming out of you. But a baby coming out of you is a baby coming out of you. And it's
Right.
like,
A whole human.
like
Yes.
I remember going to the doctor after, and I was like, "When am I going to be able to walk and sit down normally?" And she was like, "Do you know what just happened to you?" And I was like, "I mean, I get it, but like, come
Right.
on, like." But so now with you homeschooling and running a business, how are you balancing that? Like, what structures did you have to put in place to make sure that you're still able to homeschool? Because that sounds like a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot. And I mean, technically it's right now 2 businesses. So, which that is a whole other, education kind of in my mind was just gonna be part 2 of photography, and I was like, "Oh, it's the same business, really." It's just no, it's not. It's a whole other I'm like, "Man, I have 2 businesses, like, I only thought I had 1." But I think one of the biggest things has been finding help in different areas. So, when I was talking about kind of auditing and figuring out, like, okay, what's taking up your time? What needs to go, what needs to stay, that sort of thing. So, one of those things that I was like, "Okay, I need to outsource some stuff." So for me, I started with bookkeeping. I started with
Mm,
numbers because that's not my thing. I'm like, "Let me outsource the money part of things." Then I was like, "My house has to get clean, and I cannot." And I wrestled with that, like, hiring a cleaner was hard for a lot of reasons. I think as, like, a Black woman, it felt like, "No, you take care of your own house, and you gotta do this, and you gotta do" my mom was a single mom, she had multiple jobs, and I respect her so much, but I think I had this fear of perception,
mm.
and then as I'm sitting there thinking, like, businesses, they have people that do all these things. Nobody is like, "I can't believe someone cleans Target. I can't believe somebody" No, like, that's what happens because they have a business and they have people that do things, right? And so, I'm like, I'm not gonna feel guilty for taking things off my plate and giving those over because I am running a business. So, I've really leaned into trying to budget in a way that I can say, "You know what? I'm gonna take this off my plate. Maybe I need to pick up one extra session, or maybe I need to raise my prices, but there's things that I just cannot do all of the things, right?"
And that's a good one because I know, especially as women, delegating is hard. Like, it really, really is hard when I'm a Capricorn, so I'm like, they're not gonna do it the way I want them to do it. So if they're not gonna
Right.
do it, Imma do it myself. But then it's like, no, delegating, it takes it off your plate and you're able to have like that ease of mind. And even a lot of people are like, hire the cleaner if you have to, hire the meal prep, like all those different things to make your life easier without, but like you said, sometimes we think about like the perception of like, what are people gonna think if they hear if I'm doing this, or what if my mom's gonna say and things like that, when the reality is do what you need to do for your household and for your lifestyle and what's going to make sense. And then, like you said, factor it in with your budget. Like, can we afford this or what do I need to do to be able to afford that? That's actually that's a gem right there. That's a
Yeah.
gem.
Yeah.
So so in terms of delegating, how were you able to, like how we're talking, like get over that mindset of like, it's okay to delegate and it's okay to do what I need to do to make sure that this home is standing?
I think it came and usually I feel like a lot of things come through your moments of desperation, right? Where you're just sitting and you're like, "I can't do that." It's like that's always where my breakthroughs come through. I'm like, I can't do this. Okay, so I'm not going to. Like,
Mm,
bottom line, I gotta figure, I've got all these kids at home. They need me too. And I felt like, especially this time of year, December, I felt like I was giving everything to everybody else. And then coming in on like December 23rd, trying to maybe like buy some Christmas presents, throw some things together. And I'm like, while I'm here supporting other people's holiday memories, I'm not even present for my
mm,
own. Like,
mm.
that doesn't make sense, right? It defeats the purpose when we make businesses to support our family, but then we give our all to other people and not our family. It's just,
Ooh.
it's like, why? Like, why? And I think, I don't know if you're this way, but I think we can feel guilty when we have to say no or set boundaries for people. But what I tell a lot of my coaching students is you're saying no to someone. So it's either this client or it's your family, but you are having to say no to somebody. So we got to make that choice. And I think I try to sit with that a lot and try to remember, okay, this yes, is it a yes that helps my long-term goal or is it just a yes that's pleasing people,
Mm.
right?
Oh, that's a good one. Say well, you gotta say that again. Well, that's one of those like, why me, why?
Right. It's like, there's even a book called Your Best Yes. And I'm like, that's it. Because it's either a yes for your family or it's a yes for other people.
Mm,
And we've gotta make those choices and stop feeling guilty for setting boundaries. I think boundaries are kind for everyone. Like, they're respectful to your family, they're also respectful to your clients. Like, they will appreciate you for giving the best of yourself because you put those limitations on, "Here's what I won't do," or, "Here's what I'm not
mm.
able to do in this season," you know?
Right. And I think that's a good one. I know a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with the boundaries. Like even I speak with some of the kids that I'm mentoring and I'm like, don't send an email at 8 p.m. if you don't want them to respond. Like set your business hours. Like do these different things
Right,
to be able to have those boundaries because if they're calling and texting you and doing all these things at later hours, it's because you allowed that. You didn't slip that in the butt early on. And I think like you said, like that's one of the things that it is hard for us as women and as business owners to be like, is it rude? Like sometimes we feel like, is it rude that I'm setting a boundary or, how are they going to take it? When in reality, you have to set the boundaries to know to one, set the expectation of how you want to be treated, but also how you are going to treat your clients in return as well.
right, and I love what you said about, like, when you respond to things, because that's something I struggle with is, when I have the capacity sometimes to respond, I have had that thought. Even just, earlier this week, I was, like, randomly up because now that I'm 40 and, have all these kids, I feel like I just am always awake. Like, I go to sleep, I wake up in the middle of the night, and I'm ready to solve, like, I'm ready to be productive, like,
Right.
you know? But I'm like, if I send this email right now, they're going to think that means that we can just chat any old time, at 1 in the morning or at 4 AM when I'm awake and ready to start the day, and so I'm like, "No, I'm gonna wait until." So I love that you affirmed that because it's so hard.
It is, it is. And now one thing I'm gonna say I love that we can schedule. Now that we can schedule out emails and schedule out text messages on the iPhone, that has been a game changer. Cause even for me, it's like I'm nursing at 2 in the morning and my
Right,
mind is like running like, did you do this? Did you respond to this person? And it's like, I didn't, but I can actually schedule this message for tomorrow
right,
afternoon or and
right,
just get that
absolutely.
out.
Yep,
So also,
scheduling is a
so
game changer.
right now, within your business, you're not just doing photography anymore, right? You've done photography, but now you're also coaching. So, what inspired you to add that element to your business?
I think so 2 things. One, I think once a teacher, always a teacher. I feel like so many teachers that go into entrepreneurship end up some way back in the classroom. It's just I don't know, how we're designed is to instruct and coach and teach people. So, I think in a way I always knew I'd somehow end up teaching again. I thought it would be back with students. I honestly thought I was just taking a break from the classroom, and no, I'm like, "No, that chapter has closed," but I'm able to help women, and I love that. And then I think the other part of it is having that moment where I realize, like, "Man, I'm burned out." Like, I'm burned out, I'm not making enough compared to how many hours I'm putting into this business. And so once I started revamping it and once I started figuring out systems and structure and all these things, I was like, I've got to be able to help other women with this. Our industry in photography, and I imagine this is true for lots of creative industries, is that a lot of times we undervalue our services. And I see so many women that are like, I left my 9 to 5 and now I have like a 24/7. And, we laugh, but it can be true, right? We exchange this like desk job where we can at least go home and be done to working around the clock, but also not making money for it. So I just felt like it's kind of become my little ministry, being able to really pour back into women and help them figure out like you actually can do all these things if you want to, but it doesn't have to look the same as somebody that doesn't have children or somebody that maybe has children but isn't interested in that life of being more. I say stay at home. I'm not a stay at home mom. I'm a work from home mom, but being able to have that flexibility to be more present. If they want that, I want to show them that it's possible. Like you can still build. It may just look different than, somebody else, but you can still build something sustainable.
Right. Now, I have 2 questions. So the first one is, after you had your 3rd child, going into, like, that session of within your business and still having a newborn, what did you have to implement in your business in terms of when you're doing your sessions? Did you have to outsource childcare, or what balance did you have to do in order to structure moving forward with having your 2 oldest, now this newborn, and you're back to shooting?
Right. So fortunately, we're blessed that my husband has a schedule where we kind of can balance each other out. He works in the hospital. And so a lot of times that looked like him coming home and me tagging out. Like a lot of tag out. There were times where I had, a community here, which has been amazing. We have close friends here that have been able to also like, hey, can you help me with the baby for an hour until Brian gets home? And being able to lean on that community. I definitely don't take that for granted because I think a lot of people, I don't know, I feel like a lot of coaches kind of behave as if they did all of this with no help. Like I feel like that's kind of become this like, oh, build this seven-figure thing like as a solopreneur, but I think most solopreneurs do have somebody in
Right.
the background. You do have to have some help, even if it's minimal. You gotta have some sort of support. I do know people take their babies, like, they baby wear. I can't roll like that. Like, I gotta be in a box. I'm either in shooting mode or mom mode. I'm not one of those moms that can just, like, strap the baby and still focus. Like, I gotta be one or the other. So, that was a lot of what we did was just tag out. And then, my oldest, she loves being mom number 2. So, we also have some help. I actually trained her how to cull images. So, like, I've also been teaching the kids as well, like, here's how you have a business. Maybe one day you want your own business, like, teaching them how to be entrepreneurs as well. I think that's a blessing that as moms, we can also, like, teach them skills on what their future might, could look like and involving the it's a family affair. It's a
Right.
family affair.
Now, talking about community, I know sometimes it feels like guilty asking a friend or asking a relative, like, hey, is it okay if you watch so and so for this amount of time, like while I do this photo shoot? Did you have those thoughts? And if you did, how were you able to fight through those?
Yeah, absolutely. It was much different when it was the girls because they were older, right? I guess they were like 10 and 6 when we had the baby. So they were at the point where they could go to their friend's house and it's not a burden. Like, if you bring your 7-year-old to play with my 7-year-old, that doesn't change
I
what
can
I'm
still
doing
do what
because
I got to do. Right.
they're off play. Like, it's like, I mean, if anything, it's easier, honestly, because now your kids are with their friends. That's different than here's my 4-month-old who needs a bottle every this and that. And sorry, they only scream when I leave and they're going to cry the whole time. Like, that's a much different ask than can my 8-year-old play with your 8-year-old? So, yes. Oh, I felt guilty. I did wrestle a lot with feeling like it's a burden, and maybe it was in some ways, but I think I had to just lean into trusting if someone says yes, they mean yes, and giving people permission to say no. Like I always lead with, hey, this is what I need. It's completely okay if this is not within your bandwidth to help me with this. I just wanted to ask. And I think trusting that if someone says yes, they mean yes. Like, same as if you say, like, if I say yes to helping you, that's on me to mean it, right?
Right.
But yeah, it's hard. It's just hard asking for help.
It is, and I was telling my husband too. I'm like, a lot of people offer like, oh, like I would love to watch the baby, and it's like y'all say that now, but then
Right.
I also had to tell my husband, I was like, sometimes you don't want to take away that blessing. Like if someone's offering, maybe it's blessing them to be able to do this for us and being okay with saying like, okay, let's give them a try, you know. So, but then also like I'm in that new mom stage where it's like, do I trust you with my check?
Right, and you can't say yes to everybody. Like,
Right,
your circle may be very small, and that's okay. That's okay because this is your precious, like, blessing. You can't just entrust to everybody, you know?
right.
But, yeah, you're absolutely right. Taking when you said that, it made me think too. So, when I had right before I had Zeke, I have a mom friend who fully stays at home with her 2 younger ones. She has 3 now. And she really wanted to help me with social media and, like, she was like, "What can I do? I used to do this. I don't have a job anymore because I'm just staying at home, and I really wanna feel like I'm using my brain. Can I help you?" She said, "I think the season the Lord has me in is to support other women in what
Mm,
they want to do, because I think that's where like, that's what I can do right now." And I wasn't in a place to hire somebody, and she's like, "I wanna do this for free." And you wanna talk about, like, guilt. I was like, No. Like, I cannot have you work for my business and not pay." Like, I can't. And she said, "This is my blessing. Like, you I want to give this to you, and so it's not even really about you. Like, this is something that I wanna do to be able to serve, and if I didn't mean it, I wouldn't offer?"
mm.
And so I was like, "You know what?" I prayed about it, and I was like, I'm gonna have to lower my pride a little bit and accept help because I need it. And now she's my VA, and I am able to pay her and been able to bring her on staff. So, but it's like, had I not said yes to that, thinking, where would I be? I'd be drowning. I'd be drowning trying to do all of it by myself. And sometimes
Right.
we just gotta accept someone's blessing for us?
Right, right. So now, with you being a coach, what have you seen that a lot of mothers go through in this new transition of being a business owner or being a photographer? And with what you've been able to see and learn from them, what advice would you give to a mother? Like one major advice that you would give to them going into this season of entrepreneurship?
Think so many things. I think, okay, one major thing I would say is to really know your numbers. I think that is where so many people struggle, is that they are looking at, what so and so charges, or I see people post, this is my work. What would you pay for this? And I'm like, don't ask people what they would pay. That's so vague. It's such a non-useful number, right? And I think we get in this trap as women of feeling like, well, so and so would only pay this, so that's what I'm gonna charge because that's what this person or that person or no one in my industry charges this. And one, you don't know everybody in your industry. I can almost guarantee you somebody is making dollars in your
Right.
industry. They're like somebody's making money. So I think just really looking at it as numbers instead of putting so much emotion into it, instead of putting so much personal feeling into what you're going to price yourself at. I think making it's a formula. Like, this is what your expenses are. This is what do you need to make in order to justify being away? Like, what is
Mm.
that dollar amount? And then it's just math. Then you're like, okay, well that's the number. So now I just got to figure out how to build the business to support that number. But I think just taking your feelings out of it. We're too much in our feelings about things, and it limits us?
And I always say, I'm like, I believe that women are more logical than emotional. But when it comes to like pricing or when it comes to like taking something, like we feel like like we're taking money from someone, is when we feel a little bit more emotional about like, is this too much? Like they just had a baby. Can they really afford this if I charge them this for a maternity or a newborn photo shoot? And but like you said, it's like taking that emotion out of it because at the end of the day, it is a business. You're running a business to take care of your family and to take care of your business as well, so you have to treat it as such.
Yeah. Yep. And you're exactly right. My husband, he's the one that always fusses at me about spending other people's money for them, and because I am a softie. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I've gotten pretty strict boundaries, and I'm priced really well, But that doesn't mean that at my heart, I'm not just, like, wanting to give everything to everybody. And I'm like, "Oh, but I don't know, like, I just want them to have everything," and he's like, "Well, I wanna have everything too, but I can't have everything." Like, we don't go to the restaurant and just say like, "Man, like, but I really want everything, but I only wanna pay this much, but can you just, like, just give me everything?" He's like, "That's not how life works." I'm like, "I know, it's hard, it really is hard."
Awesome. So, for one new mother for a pregnant mother who's
Ooh.
running a business, what is one piece of advice that you would want to leave to end this podcast with?
I think setting up for future you.
Mm,
I think it's so hard, especially when you're carrying a baby, pregnant, or you're expecting, maybe you're adopting but you're in that season of waiting. It's so hard to see beyond tomorrow, right? Like, especially if you're physically exhausted or you're not feeling well, you're just trying to make it through today. I think if you can reserve some of your energy to plan for 3 months from now, not just looking at, what do I need to do next week to make money or what do I need to do 2 weeks, looking, okay, this time 6 months from now, what can I set up today that's gonna lighten my load so that way I've got some margin when baby gets here and I've got a little more breathing room because I planned, for the next quarter or the next quarter even after that.
that's a good one. That's really, really good. See, plan ahead, not for now. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So, how can we learn more about your coaching business?
Yep, so you can find me over Instagram, it's, Tiffany Crenshaw EDU, and of course, they can find Animal House Photography too. If they wanna see all the pretty pictures, that's where the pretty pictures live, but if they want to know how to make money and get their business life together, then Tiffany Crenshaw EDU over on Instagram, and then I can also send you my website. So,
Yes.
I'm not sure when we're airing, but I do have group coaching, and it's open right now, but there's also always the wait list for that too.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for sending and giving us so much great advice because I've learned a lot in this, and I know that another creative mom is going to be inspired and learn so much about your journey. So, Tiffany, again, thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Baby Bump and Business. I hope today's conversation reminded you that you're not alone in this journey and that there's so much power in building something beautiful while becoming someone new. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to rate, review, or share it with another mama or creative who needs the encouragement. Your support helps this community grow and lets more stories like ours be heard. To stay connected and get updates on new episodes and real talk from creative moms like you, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Baby Bump and Business. Until next time, keep creating, keep growing, and give yourself all the grace that you deserve.